In this video, I want to educate you on 3 types of PCOS. If you have PCOS, I'm really glad that you're here because there's a couple of different types of PCOS. We tend to think PCOS is mainly there's an insulin resistance, blood sugar balance issue, which I would agree. It is the most common, but it's not the only kind. And why this is important is because when you know what kind of PCOS you have, you can then shift where you need to focus the support on. And this is where 2 people, 3 people, 4 people can have the same diagnosis, but ultimately need different types of support. Because even though it's one diagnosis, the root cause and the issue is different for everyone. So let's quickly start with what is PCOS, because when we think of PCOS, we think of PCOS as there's cysts on our ovaries, which is a tall tale sign, but it doesn't happen in all PCOS cases. Another thing, actually, let me back up. PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. And one of the other key components of having PCOS is having a irregular cycle. Like, I know you're just thinking, I literally just want to depend on my cycle. I want to know when it's going to come. I want to know when it's going to be gone. And you find yourself saying, and maybe taking too many pregnancy tests if you are sexually active, you might be saying, I have no idea when it's coming. I'm either pregnant or this is just my normal, which is not your normal. You want to be regular. I feel you, sister. And then the other, I guess the third, because we talked about cysts on ovaries and having irregular cycles, is also having excess androgen production. So like having too much testosterone, and those are your androgens, which is why PCOS women tend to say, oh my gosh, I have hair on my chin too much and it's embarrassing, or I have a lot of acne and it just won't go away. I feel like I am a teenager, even though I'm in my 30s. And then there's also the component of I'm losing a lot of hair. Those Goldilocks, they're going and you don't know where they're going except down the drain, and it stresses you out because okay, I wouldn't say no one wants to be bald. A lot of people don't want to be bald or have spotty hair. Just nice, thick, luscious hair. I mean, that's all we ask for. So that's what a lot of women are feeling with PCOS. And so let's start with the 3 different types. The first type is going to be what I just mentioned before, that insulin resistance, that blood sugar imbalance. This is really what PCOS is stemming from. And this is where your number 1 focus needs to be, blood sugar balance. Yes, you want to dial in your diet, and a little different for everyone. How foods react with your blood sugar is also very individualized, but you can get a feel, even if you get a glucometer that you can get like at a CVS or a Walgreens, and start tracking your blood sugar fasting and a couple hours after you eat just to get an idea of where your blood sugar is during the day. Or you can get a CGM monitor. It's a continuous glucose monitor that right now I believe you can only get via prescription from your doctor. But the markers that you can ask your doctor for is like a fasting glucose, an A1C, and insulin. Please don't let them forget insulin. I find this being a big issue because insulin is a very silent creeper. It creeps up, but very silently. You don't show symptoms, and then all of a sudden your blood sugar goes out of whack because your glucose can actually be very normal for years, but your insulin's slightly increasing. So I highly recommend that you check out your insulin. But so you really need to focus in on diet, your life, because obviously stress plays a role in blood sugar. And I know it's really easy just to jump to supplements. I get it. And not saying that supplements shouldn't be a part of this journey, but sometimes we have to take a step back and ask ourselves, why is my body insulin resistant? And it could be something simple like I eat way too many donuts. Or it could be, I'm really stressed out. And yes, stress definitely messes with your blood sugar. But let's just say that you don't have, you eat fairly healthy, you exercise, maybe not a lot, but a little bit, and you have moderate to low levels of stress. Well, there's still something that could be happening inside the cell that is restricting you from utilizing and taking in glucose regularly. And maybe it's your body's protective way of protecting you from bringing more glucose in, which creates more oxidative stress naturally because there's a lot of things going on in your cell, from mitochondria to creating energy. And maybe it's saying, hey, hold up, we need a second. So I highly recommend diving a little bit deeper than the obvious of like, okay, eat really low carb and take berberine, which is common for blood sugar balance. That can be as tricky and a slippery slope, just like, in the functional medicine realm, we talk about how Western conventional med has it wrong for like a pill for every ill, but we can also start to do that in the integrative world as well. So we just have to be careful and making sure that we're still diving deep into the root of the cause. I went off on a little tangent there, but it's really important to make sure that you and your practitioner that you work with have that in mind. So number 2 is going to be your inflammatory PCOS. Now, inflammation is a part of PCOS in general, but this is when inflammation is going to be like the primary thing, the biggest thing. And inflammation is not ideal for PCOS because it makes your ovaries create more androgens. And then obviously, like I mentioned before with the example of having too much androgens, can definitely give you all the symptoms that you don't want. Not saying that women don't need any androgens, because we do. Testosterone is really important to us as well, not just males. But we have to really get down to the root of where in our lives do we have inflammation that we can take control over? Do you have an underlying gut imbalance that is easily causing inflammatory issues systematically? Or are you eating a food sensitivity? Because I just did my food sensitivity test last week. And yeah, cashews was on that list. And I love cashews. And cashews are naturally not that inflammatory to the average person. But to my body, it is. So are you eating potentially foods that you are sensitive to? Or do you have a lot of environmental toxins that you are around? And maybe you just have a lot internally. We all have like a bucket. And sometimes that bucket is overflowing. So some of these blood markers you can ask for is like a CRP, food sensitivity testing that we do, which we've previously made a video on, stool testing, and environmental toxin panel like tested through the urine, which we absolutely love too, just to see your burden. So these are all things that you can do to assess what could be causing inflammation. And then number 3 is adrenal PCOS. So this is your stress-driven PCOS. You guys know at this point, if you're new to the YouTube channel or to our podcast, Functional Nutrition Radio, where all podcasts play, I'm either talking about stool or stress, my 2 favorite topics to talk about. But when your adrenals are overworking, this actually can cause to throw off your blood sugar balance, like I mentioned, and then it also stimulates your ovaries to make more testosterone. So in PCOS, those are obviously 2 things that are a big no-no. So it's kind of like a double whammy. And your body, when it's stressed out, is going to say, especially for women who are trying to have a baby, like, you want a baby? I'm not bringing a baby in this stressful environment. It's going to shut down ovulation. And we need to make sure that we're addressing this, and that we understand that even though adrenal stress or adrenal health can be hard to tackle, it's still really important. And we have more control over it than we like to think we do. Because yes, there's a lot of things in our life that's very stressful, but there's a lot that you can still do about it. So what you can test for is DHEAS, and this is a blood marker. That's fantastic because when this is higher, this is showing that it's more of an adrenal PCOS because DHEA is made in the adrenals. So make sure you get that blood marker checked out. You can also look at cortisol, but I actually don't recommend that via blood. One of my favorite ways to actually test both of these is through our Dutch test. This is a dried urine hormone test, and this is what we do in our practice. We absolutely love it because not only are we seeing hormone levels, we're seeing how you're metabolizing the hormones. Not only are you seeing cortisol just once in the morning, you're seeing it over like a 12-hour span of time. So you can see where your cortisol is peaking and not peaking and seeing overall what is your adrenals making. This is my favorite hormone test by far. And if you've never done it, you should. I do mine once a year because it's so important to stay on top of it. So the other one that I'm not mentioning because it's super temporary, which all these are temporary, don't get me wrong, especially when you take care of your body. But one of the ones that are really, really temporary is a post-pill PCOS, and that is just simply coming off birth control pill, and you can be in a temporary stage of PCOS as your body starts to get to know and do what it needs to do. If you need help with PCOS, there's a link in our description that will take you to a page that you can request a free appointment with me. 15 minutes, just a phone call, no strings attached. I'm not gonna harass you and say, be our client. No, I really just wanna learn about you and then offer you what we have and see if we'd be a good fit. So if you're wanting to go check that out, our pricing, our packages, everything we offer is really transparent in that page. And if you wanna move forward, go ahead and fill out that form and I would love to see you.